Rhett Palmer.
The mayor of the airwaves is ready to go. Talking to people you wanna know.
Face to face.
One-on-one. Get the story and have some fun
With Rhett Palmer.
And now, the most trusted name in radio, Rhett Palmer, the mayor of the airwaves.
Good morning. I am not Rhett Palmer, belying the intro. I am Noah Woodrow, the studio engineer, who's normally not on this side of the camera. Rhett's with extended family, so... and with me today is David Hunter, retired diplomat. I should have the spiel on a card, shouldn't I?
Yeah, you can try how many countries I'm in and which ones.
5 or 6?
Yeah, 5.
5. India, Ukraine,
Right.
Hispania,
Yep.
South Korea?
Pakistan. And Korea.
Korea.
Yeah.
Was it? It was
South Korea. South Korea, yeah.
Wait, when did Korea split?
Well, in the 1950s, they had the war there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was not before then.
1955 was when the Korean War was going on. It's good to be here, Noah, and
Yeah.
we got
Cold out.
a lot to talk about because most of it is going to be about Israel and Gaza because that has been leading the
The hot
headlines.
button issue.
The hot button issue, yeah. And I'm kind of sorry that we don't get more coverage of it on American media. I watch CBS and NBC, and they barely talk about it. And yet these are very serious issues that are going on. So the American public needs to be aware of what is happening and why it's happening. So you have a few questions for me?
Yep. Israel military shoots aid deliveries at Gaza roundabouts. I remember hearing about that.
You did?
Was that Saturday? Was that this past Saturday?
Actually, it's been happening over and over again.
Oh no.
Over and over. This is like a turkey.
I thought it was a one and done.
No, this is like a turkey shoot.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Last week on 4 separate days, Gaza civilians seeking food aid on the road leading to North Gaza were shot and killed. Israel says it conducted investigations and that these latest choosing to not involve Israeli troop fire, blaming it on Hamas.
Yeah, you have to avoid laughing when you ask these questions.
Sorry.
Yeah, because it's although I have to almost laugh by hearing the denials by the Israelis. And I want to, you just mentioned that the Israelis conducted a, quote, investigation and claimed that this was not any Israeli troops.
Because I know the first one they admitted it, but it's like, yo, our vans got rushed, so we shot back.
Well, that first one, which you heard about, that took place on February 29th.
Okay.
It's now called, by Wikipedia, the Flour Massacre.
Oh.
Because they were delivering flour on the trucks. And, of course, people were trying to gather at this, what's called the Nablus roundabout. There are a couple of roundabouts on the way into northern Gaza.
Mm-hmm.
And the trucks have to go through those. So a lot of times the aid, needy aid recipients are waiting at those roundabouts hoping to get the...
Yeah, because they have to slow down.
They have to slow down. They hope they can get some of the aid off the trucks and so forth. Anyway, Israel claims that it was mostly a stampede and that they only fired a few shots because their troops were threatened by the needy, hungry crowds. Well, let's just say ain't so. And I'm going to give you the evidence. That's the part I want to confirm.
Evidence, my favorite.
Yeah, evidence is always nice, and it turns out that a group that is rather expert in this, called Euromed Monitor, conducted an ongoing investigation of this Nablus roundabout massacre. And what they found out is that most of the injuries were from 5.56 NATO bullets, the type of bullets fired from Israeli army weapons. A sample of 200 dead and injured victims revealed they had been hit by this type of weapon. And those bullets were also discovered on the ground in the massacre site and in the bodies of the dead and wounded people. So these are NATO bullets that are used by the Israeli military. They actually have a green steel tip and copper coating, so they can be easily identified. Okay. Now, that means this was not done, that Hamas is not using NATO bullets. Okay. So if all these people are dead or in hospitals and NATO bullets are laying all around there, guess what? And it wasn't NATO that was firing.
Yeah, because the Hamas is using like stub-nose 308s
Yeah, I don't know what.
as their majority, I believe.
A lot of these are fired by machine guns. As a matter of fact, what's called light machine guns, so the evidence is pretty clear that this was a Israeli massacre fired by Israeli troops using NATO-style bullets that have been found there. That was the February 29th event. Then on March 3rd, this is why I'm mentioning this is like a turkey shoot as they're bringing aid into Gaza, especially northern Gaza. On March 3rd, dozens of civilians were killed at the Kuwaiti roundabout. On March 4th, there was an attack of Israeli soldiers opening fires as soon as the trucks arrived at the Kuwaiti roundabout. On March 6th, 8 people were wounded at the Nablus roundabout. On March 7th, 5 people were killed at the Nablus roundabout. On March 8th, several people were killed at the Kuwaiti roundabout.
Okay.
And just most recently, today, March 20th, 23 people were killed at the Kuwaiti roundabout while they were distributing aid to the people. So they must have shot the people on the trucks as they were handing the aid out to the people that were receiving the aid. 23 people killed today. All right?
Oh my.
Now, oh my, that's right. Now, I hope our audience out there is feeling my sense of indignation and rage. This is totally inappropriate. Gaza is now in what's called a critical starvation situation. According to the United Nations definitions, they are in like a category 5 level of starvation.
Oh, charming.
100% of people in Gaza, even the doctors that are working in the hospitals, are experiencing starvation.
Yeah.
This is so the food attacks, the attacks on the food convoys, very limited ones that do come in, and then shooting the people that are getting the aid and shooting the people that are delivering the aid. This is wanton, callous destruction. It is, and the only thing that can be justified or explained is this is partly an attempt and an expanded attempt by Israel to commit war by starvation, essentially starve the Palestinians to death.
Yeah.
The Gazans to death. Now, they also, just in the last day, on March 14th, a couple of days ago, they attacked an UNRWA, that's the United Nations Relief Works Agency. They attacked a food warehouse in Rafah. Now, Rafah is where most of these people are all crowded. It's the area that Israel is announcing it's next going to wage war, and where the United States has said, don't you dare wage war there until you get all these 1.5 million people out. Okay, and Israel is saying, oh, yeah, well, we'll take care of it. We have a plan. Well, we haven't seen the plan. So as of today, the Israeli military is supposed to be flying to Washington to explain to our people in Washington, what is your plan for getting all these evacuees out, 1.5 million? How are you going to move those 1.5 million people out? And by the way, they're all starving, so they can't walk. You know, they're weak. There's no transportation to move them. And you've got to not just move them, but you've got to have tents and food supplies for them when they arrive somewhere.
Yeah.
So all of that is logistics. And that doesn't happen in a day. I'm trying to explain that. So the Israelis just attacked a couple of days ago one of the food warehouses. Now, think about it. They're firing at the convoys. They're firing at the people trying to collect the food. And now they're blowing up the warehouses where the food is being stored. Okay? And they said, well, we're going after, we just identified in this attack on the UNRWA warehouse that we captured or killed Mohammed Abu Hassan, who's the deputy head of police for Rafah. the deputy head of police for Rafah. And he said, well, he was a Hamas member. Well, what our audience doesn't understand is that all the police in Gaza are Hamas members.
Yeah.
Hamas
the government officials.
Hamas ran the government. Hamas is the government. They run the medical services. They run the hospitals. They run the police forces. And these police in uniforms are assisting in the delivery and distribution of the food aid that's coming in.
Yeah.
Now, Israel's turning around and saying, no, they want to steal that aid and give it to the Hamas terrorists. It's ridiculous. Okay? That's a ridiculous claim. It's misinformation. The Israelis are distorting this, and they're now justifying the attack on the UNRWA warehouse and destroying it as, oh, we're going after this police man who happens to be a Hamas member, and therefore we caught a big terrorist, or we killed a big terrorist. Okay? The American public does not understand how distorted and twisted this information is being used. They act like this is a big victory for them because they killed a high-level Hamas terrorist. This police deputy head in Rafah is not a high-level terrorist. He is he actually collaborates with the United Nations and with UNRWA in the distribution of food aid.
Yeah.
That's his job, part of his job. Okay? So, if you kill, think about this, if you kill all the police, you say every policeman out there is a Hamas member, I'm going to kill him, then what do you have? You have no police.
Yeah.
So it's anarchy.
Yep.
They're then moving towards destroying the existing government without any replacement government. So you have anarchy.
Yep.
Okay? Well, anyway, that explains, that's the first talk. It's a turkey shoot, and it shouldn't be happening. And we'll get on to that, but let's go to the next question.
Israeli propaganda claims Israel is freeing Gazans from Hamas terrorists. On Fox News last week, an Israeli political specialist claimed Israel's action in destroying 80% of buildings in Gaza, killing over 30,000 civilians, destroying universities, cultural sites, and hospitals were all to liberate the Gazan citizens from Hamas terrorist control. He compared this to the U.S. bombing of Mosul in Iraq to free the populace from ISIS.
Yeah. Now, isn't that interesting?
Bro, taking out a hospital is not removing the Schutzstaffel from Nazi Germany.
Well, the concept here, the argument that was made on Fox is the Palestinians are going to thank us, the Gazans are going to thank us for liberating them from the repression of Hamas.
Yeah.
Now, that is just fundamentally wrong. It's a wrong idea, and it's extreme disinformation to justify what Israel is doing with this slaughter. They're saying, well, you slaughtered a bunch of people in Mosul when you bombed Mosul to get rid of ISIS. And therefore, what's the difference? You know, they were happy when they got rid of ISIS in Mosul. So, and you blew the buildings to smithereens. So these Palestinians should be happy that we're getting rid of an ISIS-like organization. Now, that's part of the problem. This is, again, Israeli misinformation. They are providing an argument that Hamas is an ISIS-like organization.
Mm-hmm.
I've said this on the show before. Hamas has used terrorist actions, even such as suicide bombings. And some of these Islamic extremist groups also use suicide bombings. We know that from Afghanistan.
Yeah.
They were using suicide bombs. And that does not mean that the motivation for the terrorism that is being done is identical with ISIS and with Hamas. ISIS is an ideological organization of religious extremists seeking Sharia law, and it's basically Sunni, Wahhabi, Salafi.
Yep.
Whereas the audience can look up those words to try to identify that. The Hamas is a national liberation movement. It is a movement not driven by ideology of Allah, but rather by we want to free our land from Israeli occupation. That's the argument. That's why they're fighting. That's why they are conducting the acts that they do. And when they use terrorism, it is terrible.
Yeah.
But I might point out that Israel is also using terrorism and has, and some of the original reasons why this whole thing started with Hamas using terrorism goes back to Baruch Goldstein. I mentioned him on the show before. Mr. Goldstein is a very important character in this conflict between Israel and Hamas because Goldstein, as a medical doctor in the Israeli military, a colonel, he wore his uniform and walked into the tomb of Abraham and slaughtered 30 or so, killed 30 or so praying Muslims at the tomb of Abraham in a machine gun fire, and wounded, hundreds more. And then the Hamas decided this is outrageous, and they started their suicide bombings as a response to that. So one terrorist act led to another terrorist act. Now, Israel's argument is, although they are the occupiers inside Israel, I've taken over your land. If you fight back, you're a terrorist. Now, does that sound wrong?
Sounds Stalinist with
Well,
Finland.
there's something wrong with that. If I take over your land and then you say, no, you can't take over my land and fight back, I shoot you dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, or I bulldoze your house or whatever,
Yeah. We've seen it a lot in history.
Yeah.
It never ends well.
So that's an important concept. This issue of using Mosul and saying, well, the U.S. destroyed Mosul, and therefore the Mosul citizens were grateful for.
Also, you're using what is subjectively and objectively one of America's biggest public oopsies on the world stage as justification. That's not the best look.
Yeah, it's
Hey,
not.
America did it. We can do it.
Right. Yeah.
We
Well,
got so much flack for that for like 8 months
yeah,
across every world leader.
you're right. You're right. Okay.
Uh,
Okay, so that's good. So anyway, I want to point out that is it's not an equivalent situation with what we did in Mosul. It was questionable. They don't really know how many people were killed when that bombing was going on. Interestingly, Mosul's population at the time was about 1.5 million. I don't know how many of those were evacuated out safely before we went into the center of Mosul to take out ISIS.
yeah.
And ISIS was probably holding some of those Mosul residents hostages. That's, again, part of the argument that the Israelis are using. They're saying that all of these people are being held hostages by Hamas as a human shield to protect them.
Yep.
Okay, that's misleading. That's misleading. Hamas is living among the Gaza citizens. It's a crowded area. It's one of the most densely populated areas, so they are going to be living among them. Okay, and that's why the use of mass bombing as a way to try to rid yourself of Hamas ensures creating mass deaths in the civilian population. And it's not that they were wrapping themselves up and tying children to them to protect themselves. In fact, that's called human shield. And believe it or not, there's clear evidence that even back in 2000, Israel was using captured Palestinians as human shields when they were going door to door to hunt for Palestinian bad guys.
Oh yeah.
They would actually bring a Palestinian or two hostage with them. You call them a hostage, to open the door, to go in first to see if there was any explosives or tripwires set up. They would send somebody in from the Palestinians to do that. That's called using a human hostage. It's a violation of war. It's the rules of war. You can't do that.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure. Wasn't that a thing in World War II with the Germans and the French, where they were using the French to clean up places that were mined by the Brits?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, war gets pretty messy sometimes, and we do have to be careful with using analogies. World War II, by the way, was 80 years ago. That's a long time. It's almost a century, and the idea that what could be done or was done in World War II should be done today by today's ethical standards. We have hopefully moved a long way from that period. Okay, maybe we haven't. You know,
I'm not. I'm more like, oh yeah, this was wrong back then. This is still wrong today.
Yeah. Well, that's right. Okay. Well, let's go on to the next topic.
We're burning through these.
Yeah, we're working through these.
Israel raids Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza City for the fourth time. Fourth time! This week, IDF troops again raided Al-Shifa Hospital, inside which 30,000 refugees are living after their houses were destroyed by Israeli bombs. Why is Israel going after this hospital again? Didn't they already clear it from Hamas months ago?
Yeah. Well, that's right. You know,
Bro!
Israel supposedly had cleared the north. They've been talking about sending some of these Rafah people up north again. You know, oh, it's been cleared. We've got Hamas out of here, and now they're suddenly launching a major attack. In fact, they have allegedly, as of today, killed over 80 people in that hospital who they claim are terrorists. That's at least their claim. Now, we have to question Israel because they have proven themselves so many times to be dubious in providing evidence. I use an example of this with hospitals. In November of 2023, the Al-Shifa hospital was raided by the Israelis, and they captured the hospital's director, Mohammed Abu Salima, and the IDF forces said Al-Shifa hospital is a bed of terrorism. Okay?
Yeah.
That's what they said. And they actually are still holding this hospital director, Mohammed Abu Salimia. He's still being held without charges, apparently. No one knows where he is. Even New York Times started asking where he was after this recent raid of Al-Shifa, saying, you know, hey, what happened to the director that was there 4 months ago when he was grabbed? They claimed at the time, as you know, that there were supposedly that was supposed to be the Hamas central headquarters. That's what they claimed, that this was the Hamas central headquarters under Al-Shifa. They never found any central headquarters. They found a handful of weapons and a couple of things like that.
Mm-hmm. They found a mini warehouse.
But not much.
Yeah.
Not much. It was not any kind of central command post.
It was a safe house. I don't know about headquarters.
Yeah, it could have been a safe house or something like that. Now, this week, when they attacked it, they claimed that they was intelligence about it being used by senior Hamas leaders. Okay? And one of the things they did is they sent leaflets around Shifa and said to those people, oh, you need to all evacuate this area. We're going to go back in again, and you need to go to Al-Muwasi, which is 18 miles away down in the south on the beach.
Okay.
Well, you've got these 30,000 people in that hospital. Not all of them are patients. These are, refugees that are living in there. Many of them are old and children and weak from lack of food. They're in North Gaza, so they're in starvation mode.
Yeah.
And they're expected to walk 18 miles to the south to find this refuge point. Not likely. There's no way to get them. This is the problem. Israel is ignoring logistics and human capacity.
Yeah,
they say, oh, we
golf carts at least.
Yeah, give them golf carts, put them on buses, do something. Okay, if you're going to move people, you've got to provide the way to get them somewhere. You can't just tell them, oh, walk on your own when you're an old man or a child, emaciated. Some of them are starving.
Dude, even me, healthy in my mid-20s, walking 18 miles is not, especially freaking Middle East where it's 95 degrees and bone dry.
Yeah,
I ain't doing that.
Yeah, and
I'm falling over.
And again, there's shortages of water, and the food calorie intake is almost nothing. So
move 2,000 feet, sure.
Yeah,
sure, I could see that. I could see that being plausible.
Yeah. So again, those are somewhat unrealistic. Now, what they did, they said they were going to exercise precision surgical precision in invading this hospital. It turns out that the hospital was set on fire, and there were many people who were ingesting smoke and overcome with smoke, and you had a fire at the entrance of the hospital.
Smoke inhalation.
And
carbon monoxide
it
poisoning.
said, the direct quote here is that anyone who tried to move outside the hospital, say you wanted to evacuate, you want to leave out and head towards this Al-Mawasi, anyone who's moving outside the hospital was targeted by sniper bullets and quadcopters. Now, this is a limited and precise operation to catch a Hamas terrorist, and they're shooting and killing people that are trying to leave the hospital after they tell them that they should leave the hospital.
Ah, yes, fire. Man's most precise weapon.
And firing sniper bullets at people that are leaving.
Yeah.
This is slaughter. This is a massacre.
Yeah, if you want to tackle them, that's a different matter. But like you set building on fire and then shoot who leaves.
Yeah, exactly. I want to mention, by the way, in the case of a different hospital that was done in December, they have a history of this with their hospital attacks. They claimed that there were 80 Hamas members in December in the Kamal Adwan hospital. And IDF troops started shooting doctors and letting dogs loose that mauled handicapped patients. This is all proof. I'm not making this up. I wish I was. I wish that I wasn't even saying this. But can you imagine letting dogs loose to bite and maul handicapped patients in the hospital? Okay, you can't make this up. Wikipedia reports about this Kamal Adwan hospital that Israeli bulldozers on December 16th, they crushed people sheltering outside the hospital. It included, as one reporter described it, a terrifying massacre, unspeakable scenes. Dozens of displaced, sick, and wounded people were buried alive. Buried alive.
Charming.
With the bulldozers. Now, that was another hospital attack. All right? So, what I'm trying to lay the ground for here is that this Israeli action, supposedly in self-defense, has gone way, way off course.
Just a bit.
Just more than just a bit. I mean, this has become I mentioned last week about the plan for starvation that Adolf Hitler had, where he starved 3 or 4 million people in Eastern Europe as part of his genocide, as part of his Holocaust. What you're seeing today with Israel is reinventing the Holocaust and using it against the Palestinians. They are committing atrocities, including the starvation tactics. And as I said, shooting at convoys, blowing up warehouses, and blocking food aid. You think I'm making this up when I say that Israel is committing food starvation genocide. Well, it so happens that the United Nations Special Rapporteur for Gaza on TV yesterday announced that is exactly what's happening. And that
I remember that.
And that it's intentional. And she's going to be preparing a report which will be released next week, documenting from her United Nations Rapporteur's viewpoint.
I thought it was this Friday.
No.
Either way. Soon.
Soon. She's going to have it out maybe this Friday. I don't know. She said next week when she was on the program. And
imminently. It'll be released imminently.
It'll be released imminently. And the point is, a lot of our audience out there saying, oh, what difference does it make? We love Israel. Israel is our friend and ally, has been for the last 50 years. And if they do something against these subhumans, this is going back to the narrative that the Israelis are using. I've said this before, that many of including Netanyahu's own wife, said we shouldn't call them human animals. It embarrasses the animals.
Yep.
I mean, this is disgusting. It's a disgusting thing for her to say. It it reflects what the Nazis were doing to the Jews, treating them as vermin, as cockroaches.
Yep.
And why Israel thinks it can get away with using the same kind of vernacular to describe a people that they are occupying. They have a responsibility as an occupying power, by the way, to feed the people they are occupying, and they're not doing it. They're blocking the food intentionally. So anyway, I think that's the. Let's take a break. I need to cool off a little bit, and we can carry on afterwards.
All right. See you in a bit.
I'm just gonna warm up the coffee.
The Minutemen answered the call during the American Revolution. Now, Minuteman Press answers the call with custom print and design services designed to promote your business like nobody's business. They lead the charge, but never overcharge for great design, print, and promotional materials. Minuteman Press in Vero Beach, and now in Port St. Lucie. Ready to answer the call. Google Minuteman Press or visit pslminutemanpress.com.
Hi, I'm a golf enthusiast, and I love Big Shots Golf on US 1, next to Advanced Eye Care. I was at Big Shots recently and had a great time playing a virtual 18-hole golf course. Big Shots also serves really good food. The mini cheeseburgers are my favorite. I love the ice cream, too. For a fun time, bring your friends and family to Big Shots Golf on US 1.
I know you want to have a beautiful smile. Well, an examination, radiographs, a healthy cleaning would normally be well over $200. Gosh. Right now, for $79, you can call Plains Dental Arts, 231-6004. It's all included for $79. The examination, the radiographs, the healthy cleaning. Okay, call Plains Dental Arts. Make your appointment right now, 772-231-6004. Takes care of gingivitis, takes care of halitosis, gives you a great healthy smile. You get a thorough examination. Plains Dental Arts, just south of the Village Beach Market on A1A. Again, $79 for the examination, radiographs, healthy cleaning, 231-6004. Call now, 772-231-6004.
A.E. Stalls Real Estate and Associates is a hometown family company. Josh and Mandy Stalls, along with their two sons, have deep roots in this community. As a boutique brokerage, they are located steps away from Vero's beachside communities. They have a strong team of realtors, the tools, and experience to guide clients to the closing table. Helping clients feel confident in the buying and selling market is what they do. You can reach them at stallsrealestate.com, Facebook, or 772-800-8305.
They say you sleep a third of your life. So why is shopping for a mattress so important? There's a mattress store on every corner. But when you visit the Mattress Market store, you'll find Steve and his family, in business for 35 years, waiting to help you find the best mattress at the best price to give you the best night's sleep. All the major brands: Serta Perfect Sleeper, Simmons Beauty Rest, Posh and Lavish, Urban Loft Ice, Pure Latex Bliss, I Love My Pillow, Kingsdown, Biscayne Bedding, and many more. US 1 right next to Waves, Mattress Market in Vero Beach, for a good night's sleep and a great deal. Mattress Market.
Rhett Palmer.
The mayor of the airwaves is ready to go. Talking to people you want to know.
Face to face.
One-on-one. Get the story and have some fun
With Rhett Palmer.
And now, the most trusted name in radio, Rhett Palmer, the mayor of the airwaves.
Hello. Welcome back. Do I just start with the next question?
Yeah, introduce me.
We are resuming our talk with retired U.S. diplomat David Hunter.
Good to be here. Noah?
Yeah. I'm not used to being a host, show host.
That's all right. That's all right. The world keeps turning. And
Yep.
and this is a good time to get perspectives. You're a younger person. Would you say you're 25 now? 26? 26. So that's a younger perspective. So
Yeah.
I'm interested to get your thoughts as well on this next topic.
Yep. Israel's not a colony of the... Dry mouth. Suffering. Israel is not a colony of America. Senator Mitch McConnell made this remark in response to Senator Chuck Schumer's suggestion that Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu had lost his way, and even suggested Israel should hold elections to replace Bibi as Prime Minister. Netanyahu responded that Israel is not a banana republic, but a sovereign state that makes its own decisions. So Jewish Democratic Senator Schumer should not interfere with Israel's internal affairs. Who's right?
Yeah. Well, this is a big flap. It's going on now in Congress. As a matter of fact, Donald Trump just made a comment. I don't like to bring him into these things very often, but he made a comment yesterday that is what I call beyond inflammatory. It's incendiary.
Oh, that's a fun word.
And
yeah,
that's a good word, incendiary. And his comment was essentially that anybody that votes for the Democrats is anti-Israel, anti-Jewish. So if a Democrat votes, if you are a person in the American public that votes for Democratic Party, you are automatically, by his definition, anti-Israel, anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic. That's Trump's claim.
Well,
okay. Now that's a pretty serious claim, and you have to remember, by the way, that the Jews in America traditionally have been Democrats.
Yep.
About 80% of Jews are registered as Democrats, not as Republicans. Okay, so for Trump to say, if you're a registered Democrat, you're anti-Israel, that means the Jews are all self-hating. And presumably, he's alleging, as is Mr. Mitchell, Senator Mitchell, that Chuck Schumer, who is the most senior Jewish senator for years and years, and biggest friend of Israel for years and years, that he is a self-hating Jew who is hating Israel.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're saying. And you know the reason why? Because Mr. Schumer said Bibi Netanyahu is on the wrong path.
Yeah.
He's on the wrong path. He did suggest that maybe they need to have new elections in Israel. Now, to be honest, if you look at the polls in Israel, about 80% of Israelis want new elections.
Yeah.
And they don't like Netanyahu. They do support the war, unfortunately, but they do not support Netanyahu. So Schumer is not incorrect in saying that maybe Israel needs new elections under the circumstances. And the reason they're not holding elections is because of the war.
Wartime.
So
yeah,
we know Netanyahu is continuing this war, extending it with the idea that will keep him in office. He will remain prime minister as long as the war keeps going. So guess what? He has no incentive to end the war.
Yep.
Okay? That's sort of a built-in policy here. So now, are we treating Israel like a banana republic?
I don't know if we're treating them like a banana republic, but I do think we're infantilizing them a little bit and treating them like Puerto Rico.
Well, here's my alternative. No, Puerto Rico would be a good analogy, except that Israel declares itself independent. Puerto Rico doesn't.
Yeah.
Puerto Rico gets tons and tons of aid.
Yeah.
Puerto Rico is aid dependent on us.
Yep.
Now, I should point out, Israel also gets aid. Israel gets $3.5 billion with a B dollars every year in aid. It was actually introduced by Obama. Remember him?
Yeah.
The anti-Israeli, the one who actually was insulted by Benjamin Netanyahu coming to the U.S. Capitol and addressing a joint session of Congress to argue that the Iran nuclear deal was a bad deal.
I remember this.
He was arguing, Netanyahu was coming to our Capitol to speak to our Congress and argue that it was a bad deal, this deal that Mr. Obama had negotiated. And yet, Netanyahu claims now that Schumer suggesting that something should be done in Israel is interfering in their internal affairs. Well, wasn't Mr. Netanyahu coming over here and giving this address arguing to overturn a piece of treaty or legislation that that Mr. Obama had negotiated, wasn't that interfering in our affairs?
I find the two to be not wholly the same because Netanyahu was like, hey, you're letting my neighbor have dangerous crap. I don't appreciate this. So I think they're both fine. I don't think either is in the wrong, but I think that comparing them is also a little incorrect on Netanyahu's or whoever's part.
Anyway, a lot of people, including foreign policy experts and
I think what Schumer said is fine.
yeah, well, and I
don't necessarily think it's correct, but I think it's fine that he was saying it.
Yeah, meaning he had the right to say it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. By the way, talking about, you mentioned Puerto Rico, and let's compare that with Israel. As I said, Israel's getting $3.5 billion a year in aid. 75% of that is military aid. And that military aid is being used to buy American weapons, including bombs, these 1,000, 2,000-pound bombs that they have been dropping on Gaza. Those are being supplied by us with U.S. taxpayer money given to Israel, for which they then buy with our money. Now think about it. I give you money, and then you buy from me. Why don't I just give you the weapons instead of giving you the money to buy them from me?
Oh, because there's a bunch of weird legal strings attached to just handing someone a gun directly.
Okay. Well, anyway, speaking of legal strings, we do have several restrictions on our sales of military weapons.
As we should.
One of them is called the Arms Export Control Act.
Yep.
And the Arms Export Control Act specifically requires that these weapons should be used for self-defense.
Yep.
Think about this, self-defense. Now, is Israel dropping 2,000-pound bombs on cities of Gaza and blowing up hospitals and schools and museums and everything, cultural centers, mosques? Is that self-defense?
You have to torture the word to make it correct, so no, not really.
No, not really. Okay, that's the point. So the reality is that Israel is violating the terms of conditions by which we supply such weapons.
Yep.
And this is either us turning a blind eye and acting in complicity with Israel in its unjust use of these weapons, or we should draw the line in the sand and say, sorry, you can't have any more weapons.
Yeah. You broke the TOS. You get no more bang bang.
Right. Exactly. And to be honest, what has happened in the last couple of days, Canada has just, their parliament has just, I think, introduced a bill proposing to block further arms sales to Israel. And the UK, which is, again, one of Israel's closer allies, it's making some noises about cutting off arms sales.
Yeah.
So the reality here is when Mr. Schumer, Senator Schumer, says Netanyahu is way off path, going off the path, he is implying by that Israel's use of our weapons of war in such inappropriate manner is way off path, and they should not be allowed to continue with these sorts of wanton destructions of civilian populations using our tank rounds.
Yep.
We talked about this, the 155 millimeter tank rounds. That was a couple of weeks ago. Those, yeah. And we're shipping those to Israel, and guess what? They're putting them in their tanks, and they're firing them at the Palestinian people, the Gazan people.
Yep.
Okay. They should not be getting any more of those. Okay.
Probably not.
Probably not. Yeah. Okay. Good. All right. So those are the kind of things that need to be considered. The Republicans are now claiming that these comments by the senator are Schumer, who is, as I said, a devout Democrat and Jewish, that they are anti-Semitic, they are anti-Jewish.
I really wish that the public consciousness could just divorce criticizing a civil servant of a country from criticizing an ethnic group that happens to reside in said country. I can be pissed at Xi Jinping and like the Chinese people. I can criticize Bibi Netanyahu and not hate Israelites.
Good point. Good point.
It's not rocket science, people. Civic servants do not represent everyone from the country they are a servant of.
And in this case, you have to understand that the government of Bibi Netanyahu has been essentially usurped or taken over by a far-right Zionist contingency.
Yeah, I forget
Ben Smotrich.
Yeah, I forget the name of the affiliate party that is.
Yeah, Ben Gvir. Sorry, Ben Gvir and Smotrich. Ben Gvir is the Minister of Homeland Security, and Smotrich is the Minister of Finance. And they are working to essentially to reoccupy with Israeli settlers all of the occupied territories. What's happening in Palestine, so-called the occupied Palestine, is Israeli settlers are moving in there in large numbers. I've said this before. In the West Bank, it has increased up to 750,000 settlers as of today. That means that the chances of developing a two-state solution, which gives the West Bank to the Palestinians as their national homeland, that becomes more and more difficult because these settlers are there.
Yeah.
Now, I have a solution for this, and part of the solution for the destruction of Gaza. It would not be liked by Mr. Netanyahu.
Definitely not.
But it would be a fair and just movement towards the solution. All these Gazans have been displaced because their houses have been destroyed. They don't want to leave Gaza, but they definitely don't want to leave Palestinian occupied territory. So move all the settlers out of the occupied West Bank, put them back in Tel Aviv or wherever, hotels, I don't care, 750,000, and move 750,000 of the Gazans into those buildings that are now vacant on the West Bank. Then you have Palestinians living in Palestine-occupied territories, and the Jews are back in Israeli-occupied territories. So
if they keep on copying America, just pull an Indian reserve.
Yeah. So we should ask ourselves whether we should be providing billions of dollars of aid to Israel.
I don't think we should be funding the Dust Bowl anymore, and I don't think we should have been sending money to the Dust Bowl since 2009.
You're referring to the Dust Bowl being that area?
The Middle East, from the western front of Turkey to the eastern point of Kazakhstan.
Yeah, but let's be narrow and say Israel and the Palestine Mandate territories, because that's what we're talking about today. We've got other areas like Iraq and Syria, which are more complicated. But if we look at what's going to Israel, and that's to the Israeli government, that $3.5 billion is more than we send in total aid every year to Africa, Asia, and South America. More than all the rest of the aid combined to one country.
Yeah.
That's coming out of your taxpayers' money, your pocket, Mr. and Mrs. American. Okay? And these people are then saying, don't treat me like a banana republic. Send more bananas, but don't treat me like a banana republic. You see what I'm saying? This is the hypocrisy of this whole situation. And you have to pull back the screen a bit in order to get to it. I think that's pretty much what I have to say on this topic. But unless you want to, I should point out the younger population in America, the under 35 crowd, tends to have a much different perspective on Palestine than people in the age group of 50, 60, 70-year-olds. Most people in the 60, 70-year-olds, they immediately have a knee-jerk response. Defend Israel. Poor little Israel is surrounded by enemies in the Middle East, and therefore it needs our help. Your generation sympathizes with the Palestinians. Many of them, the majority of your generation sympathizes with the Palestinians as a colonial occupied people. So give me a little bit of that.
I haven't been too familiar with what my peer group thinks about this whole stuff because I don't have many people to talk about it with. Most people at my college are pretty apolitical, so I'm not super certain where all the sympathy for Palestine comes from. I do think it's a little egregious, but I'm also not completely... How do I articulate this? I'm a little bit more in line with the older crowd with the whole Israel surrounded on all sides thing, but also, you have your own plot of land. Why more?
Yeah, why expand into the occupied territories?
Yeah.
That's it. Well, the argument by the what's called the Zionists is that entire area from river to sea should be only for Jews. It's
because of the
biblical.
Levitical boundary line that Moses laid out from this mountain to that river to that little grassland area to this little thing over here. It's like, oh yeah, this spot.
Yeah. So there is that momentum by the Zionists, and as I've said before on this show, there's something called Christians United for Israel, which is Mr. Hagee and Minister Hagee, and he is essentially a very strong Christian supporter of the Zionist movement, Zionist settlements. And what Mr. Hagee is doing, he's raising millions of dollars. He has allegedly 5 to 10 million members here in the United States.
Yep.
And he's got all those members sending him money, which he's then sending over to the settlers to pay for their buildings.
Yep.
So we in America, some of us in America, are financing this illegal settlement activity.
Yep.
Now, it's illegal by international law, but it's considered a charity giving by the United States IRS.
Yep.
Now, how can you have something that's being given illegally to promote illegal expansion in a occupied territory? How can that be granted a tax exempt status? Does that sound wrong?
It sounds wrong, but it does not sound surprising. There's so many stuff that the IRS is like, oh yeah, that's a charity. It's you dig a little bit and you're like, what the F?
Yeah, okay.
What the F?
What the
What's
F?
going on here?
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, anyway, so that's an interesting point. I would also encourage that the Christians United for Israel group have its charitable status reviewed immediately. If it is indeed sending money to settler communities to expand in the West Bank.
And if it's not, they're free to prove it.
They're free to prove it, exactly. Yeah. So that's another very relevant point. I love Israel. I love the Jews. I do not love Zionism, and I do not love the far-right extremists who have taken Israel in the wrong direction. That's my own opinion.
Yeah.
And that does not make me anti-Semitic, and it does not make me anti-Jewish.
Yep.
Okay, that's I'm not going to allow somebody to say that about me.
Criticize the government, not the people.
Exactly. The government policies are wrong. What they're doing right now is wrong. They are committing, as the UN representative said, they are committing genocide.
Yeah.
It's not even a question of maybe they're doing it. She has concluded they are.
Yeah.
Okay? And we in America should not be backing and supporting a country that is doing such actions.
Because if you rub the serial number of Israel off and just objectively look at the actions, and if you bullet pointed all of the actions on both sides and just filed off Israel-Palestine, most people will be like, what? We're putting money into that?
Right.
Why?
Yeah.
Why is...
Yeah.
Similar thing with Ukraine and Russia, but to a lesser extent.
Yeah.
If you file the serial numbers off, should we really be doing that?
And one last thing I'll mention before we finish up today. This claim about Biden and the Democrats being, as Trump is claiming, being anti-Israel and haters of Jews. I should point out that Biden, in his administration, his vice president's husband, Doug Emhoff, is Jewish. His Homeland Security Secretary, Mayorkas, is Jewish.
Yeah.
The Director of National Intelligence, Avril Haines, is Jewish. The Deputy Director of the CIA, David Cohen, is Jewish. The Secretary of the Treasury, Janet Yellen, is Jewish. Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, is Jewish. Blinken, the Secretary of State, is Jewish. Wendy Sherman, the Deputy Secretary of State, is Jewish. And Vicki Nuland, who's a senior member of the State Department, is Jewish. And we have at least 18 Jewish ambassadors in the Biden administration. Now, that's just in the administration. We're not talking about the rest of the House, the members of the House and Senate, and whether they might be Jewish. I didn't even look into that. But to sit here and have somebody like Trump say that the Democrats are anti-Israel and hate the Jews, when you've got one of the most Jewish-heavy, keep in mind, there are only 2% of the population in America. Look at the list that I just gave you. All of those members are Jewish. Now, Jews are smart, talented people. But you can't turn around and say that Biden is anti-Jewish.
Yeah.
That is the most preposterous claim. It's beyond absurd. It's beyond absurd.
Certain people on the internet might make a different claim that you could twist to make it sound more sound, but yeah, Trump's claim is not. If you want to say that Biden was being a puppet bird, nope, not completing the joke. Not completing the joke. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube.
Okay.
I'm not kidding. My boss kicked off of social media for being an edgelord.
No. Okay. Right. No, it's a. I think that should be a fairly good.
For legal reasons, I am joking.
Yeah, that should be a fairly logical conclusion. Just look at the facts, ma'am. That's what I'm asking you.
Yeah.
As men and
Look
women.
at the facts. File the serial numbers off.
Yeah. Consider things from a logical point of view. That's
Common
good.
sense is dead. Simple logic is alive.
Yeah, that's right. Well, simple logic will do, and we can get the facts. And as I described about those bullets, the green-tipped bullets at the beginning of the show.
Oh, look, an indicative type of ammo that only one side in the conflict uses. Although, there have been instances where it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna give like 3 of our dudes weapons from that side to like stage some stuff.
Yeah.
But
But not a whole pile.
Yeah, not like 30.
Yeah.
You might have 5.
Yeah, and keep in mind that in that flower massacre there were 112 murdered.
Yeah, you don't
Okay.
drop that many bodies with a small cache of stolen weapons.
Right. Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, any more questions? Do you have anything else on? We did have an election by Vladimir Putin.
Oh yeah,
That
an
was
election.
That was
Lovely.
Yeah, I should comment on that. That is beyond a travesty of justice.
Yeah.
It is a mockery of justice to think that Putin, this is his 5th term he's got now another 6 years, and he won by 87% of the vote or something like that. Well, the reality is
Such a high number.
the reality is he could have dialed the number anything he wanted.
Yeah.
On that. He could have. And he murders his opponents. His political opponents
Yep.
are either exiled or murdered.
Yup.
He even made a recent comment that on Alexei Navalny, who died in prison
Yeah.
up in the Arctic Circle. He said, well, I was actually in the midst of a negotiation with some of my staff on releasing Navalny, but he just,
bro.
unfortunately, he died before I could say yes.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. So, do you believe that? He was going to release Navalny the next day, but he died in prison just
Yeah.
before. Yeah.
Hey, you can say whatever you want after the fact. There's no one's gonna contest that statement.
Well, you should contest it, and that's the problem.
No one who was there can contest that statement.
Yeah. But you see, this is
Or
part of
will
this is
contest
part
that
of what
statement.
Putin does in what's
Rather.
called revisionist history. That's the
Yeah.
term for it. What do you define as revisionist history?
Like two different conflicting answers are in my brain. Essentially, just painting over what happened into something that looks prettier for you.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Redefining what happened in a way that reflects more positively what you
Yeah.
want. Yeah. This goes back to as I mentioned on this Pope, the Pope Pius the 12th last week.
Oh,
We
yeah.
talked about that. The Vatican engaged in revisionist history.
Mhm.
They were an ally of the fascists, not necessarily of the Nazis, but of the fascists.
Yeah.
And the fascists were allies of the Nazis. So
Yeah.
go figure.
Mussolini.
Mussolini.
Fascisto,
Right.
I don't speak Italian.
Yeah. So what happened was the idea was after the war was over, and guess who won? It wasn't the fascists.
Yeah.
The Vatican decided, well, we better change those, and they kept a lot of those records secret,
Yeah.
locked in their Vatican vault, because the Vatican vault would reflect that, hey, they had been playing footsies with the bad guys, the fascists,
Yeah.
who at the time they thought were going to win, and if they had won, they wouldn't be the bad guys; they'd be
Yeah.
the winners.
Yeah.
Yeah. So revisionist history, it's a dangerous thing. I think if you really want to understand the world, you've got to peel back the layers. And I ask our audience out there, when you're thinking about issues and you hear them on the news, use your own brain.
Yep.
Why are they saying this? Do they have a motive for saying this? Do they have a spin? Is there a particular bias that they're presenting to you? And are you going to be gullible enough to believe it without cross-checking the facts?
Yep. And also a thing that I learned from some psychology thing, if you hear a person tell a story the exact same way 3 times in a row, they're lying. Because you don't articulate a story the exact same way every single time because your brain remembers facts in different orders. But if you rehearse a lie, everything's in the same order every time.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
All right.
if it's bullet point A, B, C, D,
Yeah,
5 times in a row, that was rehearsed.
yeah.
That was rehearsed.
Okay, well, the last thing I'm going to mention is just we're kind of doing a little roundup of
Yep.
things around the world.
Bonus round.
Round around the world, and this is John Lee is the El Presidente, or
Mhm.
chief of the Hong Kong government,
Oh, yeah.
and he says he has just completed his holy mission. Now, what does he mean by that?
Yeah, that phrase doesn't bode well.
Doesn't
typically.
bode well. Now, keep in mind, John Lee came out of the police and security apparatus, and he was introduced as the head of the government by the Chinese, Mr. Xi, after they had essentially overthrown the democracy in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
So Lee became, as
Taiwan 2.0
as Hong Kong became less and less democratic and more
of
under
a vassal state.
a vassal state under the thumb of Xi. So what this holy mission is that Lee has just completed is passing a new, much more ferocious national security law, which includes the death sentence for treason. So what we're looking at now is essentially like the trebling or quadrupling of severity of police state laws in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And that is considered his holy mission. Now, to me, that is, again, a contradiction of terms. It's not holy, it's an unholy mission.
Well, yeah. Divine mission, maybe.
Divine, if President Xi is the divine leader, then
Yeah.
it's a divine mission of the divine leader,
Yeah.
President Xi. But
Which,
otherwise,
like, oh my.
yeah. So
Poor Hong Kong.
Poor Hong Kong, exactly. We've talked about Hong Kong in this show over the years, and
Yeah.
especially, but I think it's worth bringing it up again. Hong Kong is now in the most repressive condition it has been in since probably the British left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first like 5 years when the British were gone and no one knew what the heck they were doing.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
so the world is a complicated place, and your generation is going to inherit this.
Possibly.
Well,
I don't know. The average age of the Senate keeps going up.
yeah. No, not that's true. Maybe we need some new senators. Get
Yeah.
some new politics and some younger people.
Yeah, my mom is like, oh yeah, I'm turning 60 this year. I still haven't had a president younger than me.
I haven't, even at 60.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, young presidents, that's different, because normally you do need some seasoning. I'll say that I've learned more. When I was young, I thought I knew a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I'm old, I realize I still don't know a lot.
Yeah.
I am humble by the fact that there's so much to know.
Yeah. But also, Marco Rubio was the first senator of the state that she lived in that was younger than her. Like, so many different levels of government. It's like, yeah, I've never had anyone younger than me
Well,
turning 16.
there are impressive reviews by looking at the rest of the world. I mean,
Yeah.
Macron is a pretty young guy in France. He's quite talented. I wouldn't say the same.
Catching foot and mouth disease.
I wouldn't say the same for our Canadian neighbors.
Oh, Canada.
He's young, but not necessarily, and charismatic. But I have some
Canada.
reservations about Canada.
Malay that just got in Argentina. I think he's in his early 40s.
Yeah, he is a bit of an oddball.
I love Malay.
Well, and a lot of people love him, but I think he would be better as a stand-up comic than as president. Actually, Zelensky of Ukraine is fairly young.
Yeah.
And he was a stand-up comic.
Yes,
And-
he was on their equivalent of SNL.
Yeah, and he has shown himself to be a mature and seasoned political leader. So let's
A
get
little petty.
let's get the funding for Ukraine going again. We don't want Ukraine to fail against Russia. That will only embolden Vladimir Putin. As I said, his elections that he just held, he included getting votes from an area called Transnistria,
Oh, yeah.
which is in Moldova.
Yep.
And the Russians have laid claim on this strip inside of Moldova and said, well, we have Russians living there, and therefore that's our land. Well, that's the same thing they did when they took over eastern Donbass. They said, well, the Russians living there, we're going to take it over. So,
Although with Moldova, didn't they hold a local election and they're like, yeah, Russia.
yeah, well, the point is that
Donbass didn't do that.
the point is that the Transnistria is Moldovan. It's not Russian. They should not have been holding elections there for Russia.
Yeah.
Some of Putin's voters came, that 87% he got, some of them came from Moldova.
Yeah.
And they also held elections in eastern Donbass.
Yep.
Okay, and those voters came. So he's using elections as an excuse for what's called territorial grab.
Yeah.
Maybe if we went down to the Key West and they had an election for Putin down there, he could claim that Key West was part of Russia too.
Yeah.
Oh, I got 20 votes in Key West, so
Yep.
that must mean that Key West belongs to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're dealing with some very dangerous tyrants and autocrats around the world, and we need to be prepared as a country.
Yep.
I've said that when Mr. Feeney was in here with us, we've got to have our military fully supported, financed. We can't have these government funding problems that mean you can't pay your troops.
Yep.
I mean, think about that. You're out there on the front line somewhere in the middle of a danger zone, and your paycheck isn't coming in, and your wife's calling you saying, I can't pay for the groceries this week.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with that.
Yep.
So get the Congress to get off their tail and pass these budget bills and pass that aid to Ukraine.
Yeah. I mean, Speaker Johnson said single issue bills only. That's on
Yeah.
the other people at that point.
Right. Well, Johnson is responsible in part for the problems. So we can't play politics. These are too important for us as a country and for our safety and security.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, that's all I have for today.
All right. Next week, do you want to do some research on Haiti? Because that's growing imminent with us in Florida. As Floridians, there's plans to use Florida as a
dumping
midway
ground
point for certain stuff with Haiti, and yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, audience, for putting up with both of us today. Noah, you did a good job as your fill-in for Rhett. But let me see you play that guitar.
Not my instrument
Tambourine?
of choice.
How about the bill? How about this?
Tambourine's adjacent. I'm a percussionist.
Oh, okay.
I play bass. I don't play normal guitar. I'm gonna break that thing. My fingers are too strong.
All right. Okay.
Bye, Facebook. See you next week.
Yeah.
Well, see him next week.
Yeah.
You'll see another guest in half an hour.